Hello, everyone. My name is Jayne Svenungsson. I'm a professor of systematic theology at Lund University in the very south of Sweden. And I have been given the great honor of coming and giving the liberal lecture, the Vrijzinnige Lezing. I hope that pronunciation will work. And it's funny because often Dutch and Swedish is closer than both languages are to English. So I recognize our own word vrijzinnig. So den vrijzinniga föreläsningen is what that would be in Swedish. Now, the title of the lecture that I will be giving is Poetic Theology, and some of you may wonder what poetic means, what poetic theology is, and why I think that that is important. Well, perhaps it's not what I'm talking about is not what it may at first indicates to many of you. I think many people would think that poetic theology is just about saying that theology could be reduced to poetry, or that poetry is necessarily about the divine. So that is not just a thesis that I'm going to propose. But I will suggest that there is an affinity between the kind of experiences involved in these two spheres. And also that there are things that we can learn by reflecting on this affinity. And I come from a Protestant background, and I know that it is a Protestant context in which I will give this lecture. So it's interesting to know that some of the early Protestant theologians, they were quite interested precisely in this affinity between these various fields of experience. So what I will do in my lecture is that I plan to take you, the audience, back to what I will describe as a lost radicality of early, especially pietist and romantic Protestant theology. Especially during the 18th century, you find a vivid discussion about the relationship between theology and poetry, but also art, so poetry in the wider sense. And we find among these theologians a fascination with the human capacity for awe and wonder, like our capacity to rise above our individual selves and relate to a larger whole. So it is this rich reflection on the complexity of ourselves as human beings that I would like to explore together with you in my lecture. And as I said, I think that there is a radicality here that speaks into our own time, perhaps especially in Protestant Northwestern Europe, where I think we have a strikingly underdeveloped thinking about what it means to relate to anything that exceeds the factual world. So I think there are things that we could learn from these early theologians. Now, one may wonder why this is of importance for church today, for theology today. And I think that, among other things, a renewed focus on the affinities between aesthetic and spiritual experiences can give us a better understanding and a more nuanced conversation on religion today. In a Scandinavian context, and I presume it is the same in the Netherlands, it is very clear that people today often speak past each other when they use rigid categories such as believer versus non-believer, or religious and secular, when we define people, or we define certain practices or traditions. So we say this is secular, this is religion. And I think that these categories are not only simplifying, but often misguided, precisely because they often fail to capture what many people, perhaps a majority, actually think, believe, and experience. So just to give an example, in Sweden, recent sociological studies suggest that only a minority actually define themselves as traditional theists and atheists, whereas the majority would say that they believe in something, in some cases more specified, in some cases less. Many people relate to some aspects of the Christian tradition, while they reject others, and so on. So a renewed focus on this dynamic borderland between aesthetic and spiritual experiences may enable us, I think, to have a richer conversation about what people actually think, believe, and experience. But I want also, and I will do so in my lecture, to stress that this is not a matter of erasing distinction, again, of saying that poetry is just is actually about experiencing the divine, although not everyone has realized it, or vice versa, to say that theology or religious belief is just is nothing other than poetry. So I really want to stress that I'm not interested in erasing distinctions, or that or of arguing that complex experiences could be distilled down to kind of universal experiences that are exactly similar to all people. On the contrary, I think that what makes an experience in the more complex sense is precisely the way it is also particular, the way it is interpreted by the single person, which is, for example, why a Christian person's experience of, say, a Handel concert as a divine revelation, as being touched by God, or however they would describe the experience, is certainly not identical to an agnostic person's artistic experience of the same concept, without putting or placing any value into either of these experiences. So the point I'm making is just that there are still enough common features in the two forms of experiences to enable one subject to enhance the understanding of the other's experience. So I think that drawing attention to terminologically similar experiences can, in other words, stir our imagination and help us dismantle the ways in which we sometimes preemptively reduce complex cultural processes and relations to religious versus secular, and so on. So this is what I will try to unravel in my lecture. I look very much forward also to the conversation that we will have after the lecture. I shall confess that this, as I said earlier, this is almost my first time in the Netherlands, so I'm not very well acquainted with Dutch church life and theology. But what I know through the nice conversations that I have had with some of my Dutch colleagues is that there are very many interesting similarities, but also many similar challenges between our countries. We are facing strong nationalist currents with also nationalist actors and groupings reinvesting in Christianity, in Christian symbols, I think this is one of the many challenges that churches and theologians have to relate to today. So this is one among many fields where I really would be interested in sharing experiences and learning from you. But above all, I look forward to all the surprises, all the questions, associations that you will make in relation to the lecture and the conversations that will give rise to. So very much looking forward to coming to Amsterdam and to Utrecht later this spring.